Hello and welcome to the CDO Magazine interview series. My name's Eleanor Treharne-Jones and I'm the CEO at Kensu. And I'm delighted here to have the opportunity today to be speaking with Steve Muskopf, who is the Director of Data and Advanced Analytics at IGS Energy. We talked about this earlier and it prompted me you talked about your acquisition that you went through last year and you talked about the growth of data and new customers. A lot of what we're hearing is that projects in 2023 are framed from a efficiency, consolidation, budgets are tight kind of lens. It sounds like that's, not necessarily the case, but I'd love to hear how, when you look at 2023 from a, economic perspective, does that resonate or does that feel different within the energy context?
So people always need energy. So when there is a recession, I don't think it hits companies in the energy sector as hard as it would other areas. Again, we're not a utility, so there's no guarantee. It's not like a monopoly, but people are looking for better pricing, and that's what we're trying to do as well, is offer that better pricing. So I don't think that an economic downturn is going to hit us as hard as other areas. So it's not really a factor in how we're pursuing things for this next fiscal year.
Which is great to hear in the current economic climate.
If anything, there is a lot of volatility in the energy industry, and companies who do not manage their risk well get themselves into trouble. So we've acquired several companies that way, and I imagine we'll continue to do that.
Digging into what many analysts are seeing as a hot new trend, there's a lot of hype around it, is the topic of data observability. And again, when you have a topic like this, there's a lot of noise and it's often quite confusing. Tell me how you would define data observability.
Yeah, I think I would describe data observability as understanding the health of data in your systems, how relevant or fresh your data is, identifying tagging items that fall out of some kind of normal distribution like outliers, tracking the amount of data, like if there's been a big increase or decrease in the volume of data, and basically understanding where data is sourced in the lineage of data. Mm-hmm. So I think without data observability, you have to be more reactive than proactive. So we'd like to, with data observability, you don't have to scramble after the fact to clean up things like invoices maybe that were going to be generated improperly, because you catch them before things get to that point. So it's adding a layer of visibility before bad things happen.
100%. You talked about that visibility and the lineage and understanding the ownership of each of your kind of data applications and things like that, when we were talking earlier about kind of good governance. Do you have a data observability strategy? Has it reached that level of kind of maturity within IGS? Tell us a little bit about your thoughts there for 2023.
So the area where we've started more data observability is on our advanced analytics side. So one of our large first projects that we had released on the advanced analytics side was machine learning algorithms that predict demand forecast for our customers at an individual account level basis. And there's different models for different, like what information you have available about accounts. And one of the observability things we introduced lately was, hey, if there's a trend towards having less interval usage, like because you can get usage at different grains, it will shift to more of a summary usage model. And the observability kind of gave us an indication of like, hey, there's a lot of customers who we were previously predicting their demand based on interval usage, and now it's using summary usage. That drift was something that data observability project that we had worked on relayed to us, and we were able to target, well, why aren't we getting that same level of data that we used to get, and go back to the source of the problem. But again, so outside of that specific instance, I do think a data catalog solution will help us with some of the observability, like freshness and of the data and lineage. And data quality metrics are to date, they've been part of our product teams. I mentioned before, we're a matrix organization. We have these product managers. So there is a lot of the data observability falls on the product teams to manage themselves, but I think there are areas where the data org can help with that. So one of our first steps is going to be getting together with product managers to uncover what their observability goals are and which ones would be best managed by the data organization. And then we're going to have to address more of the distribution of that observability and automation for it.
Yeah, it's that kind of shift left that we're seeing across the industry of, moving from downstream to upstream, where the kind of data team can play a bigger role in managing data health and reliability before it hits down.
But one of the things you have to get in place as soon as you start making more transparency is, what do you do with that, right? How do you react if you find something that's that is out of sequence, falls out of the normal distribution, et cetera. So that corrective action is something we also need to work through together.
What would you see as the biggest benefits and success criteria for data observability?
So I don't have clear success criteria mapped out, but having data observability does increase accuracy, which leads to better decision making. So you could say, hey, based on this data observability, we're able to correct or uncover X number of issues. But I don't really think that's how you want to measure success, is how many issues are uncovered, because the hope is that there aren't any issues and you get to that point. So then your success is, viewed as less. But so there's lots of KPIs around like performance and uptime, and improvements in those areas can be attributed to data observability, I think, because if a lot of data, like system issues, are sourced from data issues. But to me, I think success is more about confidence in the data, and we haven't quite come up with metrics on how to calculate that confidence yet, but that's something we're working on.
The ability to kind of trust what you deliver as a team. And you talked about that, I think, at the very, very beginning, in terms of, that.
But if our business partners trust the data, then that's success, in my point. And because they're the benefactors of data observability, provided action is taken when you find issues.
So, and finally, just to clarify your thoughts on where ownership of that lies. It sounds like it's across product, the data team, with the kind of business users as the end kind of validators of that. But did I frame that correctly? Where do you see the ownership?
Yeah, so our business teams are the primary sources for getting data, and therefore I think they're critical to data quality, but they need to be invested and understand what they do impacts data quality. And it can be driven top down, but even at the individual contributor, I think they need to be convinced of the importance of data. I think this was a kind of a funny story, but during this acquisition that we just did, one of the precursors to flipping the switch and going live with our systems was that the sales folks loaded a lot of the sales information into their contract system themselves, and there were certain data elements they didn't have, and they didn't ask for assistance, so they just loaded dummy values in it. In fact, they used, like, for some contact names, they used the word dummy. So like it'd be first name dummy, last name dummy. Well, when we did mock conversions and ran through like the My Account, what the user experience would be when they logged into the web portal, it said "Welcome, dummy," which is like, would have been a very horrible experience for our customers. So I think that is like, hey, you guys realize that this data is important because it's going to surface itself, and these are some of the ways it can be resurfaced. And I've heard it at times, lots of business folks say, hey, this is our data and we need to be able to access it. So the stewards of data assets, it's our responsibility to work with them and make sure they have the tools to manage the data, but ensure accuracy. So it's a shared responsibility for sure.
I can't believe we're going to wrap up this interview with a dummy data,
Yeah.
dummy data anecdote. But Steve, thank you so much for taking the time to talk with me today and be a part of the CDO Magazine interview series. If you want to go and look for more interviews, then look at cdomagazine.tech. And thank you very much for your time today.
Thank you.